Democrats
I'm hearing
did
boos
not
in the
open
audience.
the door.
The Constitution, yes, they did. Three
You
elections
can't
in a
compare-
row.
You cannot compare
I can
those.
because they're going through what they deem to be a legal process. I think it's illegal, no matter which party does it. Because there's nowhere in the Constitution that says Congress gets to certify the election. They don't even use that word. This is based on an old 1886 law from the Reconstruction era. It's for a very different situation. We need to get rid of that entire process.
We need to have a full page one rewrite of the Constitution, not that there aren't some great things.
So this should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours. He's a friend of CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility.
Last time, we showed you how Bill Maher completely destroyed Kaitlan Collins on live television. But let's face it, that was only the beginning. Due to time constraints, we had to cut out some incredible moments. But today, we're going back in time to the exact moment Maher dropped the hammer. No gloves, no filter, no mercy. And just when you thought things couldn't get any worse for Collins, we'll show you how she uses a trademark arrogant strategy to try to corner both Trump and J.D. Vance, only to wind up creating yet another media spectacle.
To act like what Democrats have done before, which is often something that Republicans, when we have them on my show, say when we talk about January 6th and the fake electors and Trump refusing to admit that he lost the election. There was barely a peaceful transfer of power. They actually wouldn't even allow them to move forward with getting federal funding to start the transition for weeks. I remember it was because we found out about a little known position that no one in the federal government even really knew much about because of that. But also, the difference then is Joe Biden went and certified the election. He was the vice president then, and he certified Donald Trump's election and there was not a massive... because Mike Pence was pressured not to by Donald Trump.
The entire process.
Before Bill Maher even enters the scene, we need to zero in on what Kaitlan Collins just did, because it's key to understanding why some argue Republicans aren't just wrong. They're portrayed as pure evil and dragged through the mud at every opportunity. Meanwhile, Democrats, they're treated like saints. Joe Biden was hailed as a hero for certifying the 2017 election, practically deified by the media, but when someone pointed out that Mike Pence did the exact same thing in 2021, Collins was quick to brush it off like it never even happened. That's not just bias, that's weaponized hypocrisy. This isn't journalism, it's political theater. In Kaitlan's world, if you're not wearing a blue jersey, you're automatically the villain. Maybe that's why Trump famously called her a nasty person. She doesn't just display her bias, she wraps herself in it like armor. Her mission isn't to inform, it's to spin, distort, and crush anything that doesn't serve a narrative but trust. But there's more to unpack in this story. For now, hold on tight as we watch Bill Maher go all out and completely destroy Kaitlan Collins for what she did.
Opened this door, Republicans ran through it. Congress, I'm hearing
did
boos
not
in the
open
audience.
the door.
The Constitution, yes, they did. Three
You
elections
can't
in a
compare-
row.
You cannot compare
I can
those.
because they're going through what they deem to be a legal process. I think it's illegal, no matter which party does it. Because there's nowhere in the Constitution that says Congress gets to certify the election. They don't even use that word. This is based on an old 1886 law from the Reconstruction era. It's for a very different situation. We need to get rid of that entire process.
We need to have a full page one rewrite of the Constitution, not that there aren't some great things.
We have the oldest Constitution in the world.
Right, and some of it is ridiculous. I live in a state with 40 million people, and I get 2 senators, and the Dakota Territory gets...
In a recent segment, Bill Maher didn't mince words. He criticized journalists like Kaitlan Collins for selective anger that stems from partisan goals and criticized what he perceives as obvious double standards. As Maher noted, some media voices only voice concerns when it's politically convenient. When Republicans are in power, the Constitution is suddenly portrayed as an outdated threat. But when Democrats take over, those same critics treat it as sacred and untouchable. His argument was clear. If the Constitution contains outdated or problematic elements, they should be openly addressed regardless of who holds power. Although Maher did not name specific individuals, his target was clearly visible as he stared directly into the camera. He challenged the media to stop distorting the fact to suit political agendas and called for bravery, integrity, and a return to journalism that holds everyone accountable, not just the opposition party as Collins did. Maher suggested that she has come to represent that partisan slant that prioritizes narrative over objectivity. If you think that's too harsh, watch the video and make your own judgment.
It's a really important point, Kaitlan. Who is the number 3 person from the Biden Department of Justice who went to work for the New York prosecutor just months before he brought this case against Donald Trump? You can't have people moving from the Biden administration to prosecute Donald Trump in New York and say it has nothing to do with the Biden administration, especially
Attorneys
when the
go
judge is a
from the
Biden
Justice
administration
Department
donor.
to local DA's offices all the time. That's not that unusual. I mean, you're an
It's pretty
attorney, you
unu-
know
it's,
that.
It's pretty
You probably have
unusual.
colleagues who went to Yale with you that did that.
It's pretty unusual for the number 3 person in the Department of Justice to then go to the New York prosecutor's office to bring a bogus case against Donald Trump, and then to have the judge presiding over that case to be a donor to Biden-Harris. I think that's pretty unusual, Kaitlan, and really is, aside from your views or anyone else's views about Donald Trump, this is a real threat to Americans' trust in the legal system.
J.D. Vance didn't mince words. He told it like he saw it. He knew the game was being played. He saw the Democrats doing everything in their power to prevent Donald Trump from returning to the White House. And he knew that CNN, led by Kaitlan Collins, was contributing to that effort rather than backing down. When Vance attempted to tie Trump down by suggesting that he had called for a coup on January 6th, he accused Collins of doing what she has come to be known for, putting words in his mouth. Instead of recoiling, Vance retaliated, accusing her of using language as a weapon, twisting Trump's statements, and fabricating a story. It was a turning point that not only exposed a media strategy, but completely changed the course of events. Vance wasn't falling into a trap. He was calling it out, and by doing so, he changed the dynamic so that it was a prosecutor building a case rather than a journalist asking questions, and he made sure that everyone saw it.
Trump's team, his attorney, argued that a president could order the military to stage a coup and to have their political opponent assassinated and be immune from prosecution unless this theory that they were impeached and then convicted by the Senate. Do you share the view that presidents are basically above the law?
Look, Kaitlan, I think we have to be careful about imputing words into the president's attorneys that they didn't actually say. What the president's attorney said is that what the president's attorney said, Kaitlan, to be clear, is that there is a checks and balances system in our Constitution. Now, some things the president does, private acts, are liable to criminal penalties, but most of the things that the president does in their official duties, we have a system of impeachment, we have a system of checks and balances, the legislative branch that I'm a member of, the judicial branch. I did not read the president's attorneys as saying that the president could order a coup. The president's attorneys are saying that the constitutional checks and balances system would address that problem, and I think that's an important distinction.
But let me stop you right there, because I listened to this. It's John Sauer, Trump's attorney, and when he was asked by one of the justices if the president could order the military...
To put things in perspective, many presidents have made decisions that, in retrospect, cause controversy, some even bordering on questionable legality. Let's examine what Kaitlan Collins is actually doing in more detail. Her persistent attempts to insert arguments into the conversation, arguments that Trump's legal team never even made, have become something of a trademark. She is strategic and always looks for that soundbite that will garner applause from her base.